Hey Faisal,
everyone. Welcome back.
how are you? I was dealing
Fine.
with one of life's challenges, one of life's simpler challenges,
Yeah,
Wi-Fi.
I just noticed that you were thrown off the grid for a bit.
Right.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us again on our weekly Wednesday webinar series, Embracing Change. So we have Mr. Ahmed Husain back with us from London, and Ahmed, being a keen investment banker, decided to flip it over and do a coup d'etat. And instead of him coming up with something to talk about, decided to flip it back and throw it on me. So
Right.
this is going to be a little different. This time it's going to be me doing a lot of the talking, but trust me, Ahmed, I'll make sure that you you join
You're
me,
back.
and I'm not. This is not a monologue. So
Got it.
welcome back, Ahmed. Thank you for taking the time
Thank
and
you.
being with us. I see you've changed and worn a little bit of a sweater to up the game from the t-shirt.
Yeah,
So
you were in front of me, so I figured let's up the jacket will come on in the next few seconds too. So let me kick off. Look, you and I have known each other for a few years now. We met after I read your book. I'm a big fan. Have watched all the sessions. Got your book right here, and so I think where I wanted to go, and what I felt seeing all the material that you guys put out and all the great speakers that you have, the thing that's been missing in my mind is sort of, why? Uh, you were doing something totally different, nothing to do with healthcare 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Then you went through what you went through. And maybe for some of the attendees, we should just kind of say what happened in your life that made you start genetic hair. Sort of what's your why, right? Why did you do this, and how do all the pieces fit together? Like, why Jonathan Cave, why Anise, why Dr. D? How do all these pieces fit together in holistic care and wellness?
okay, all right. I guess we'll pull the clock back. I mean, obviously, I think most people know that I fell very sick at the age of 35, with my two boys being 1 and 3. But the perplexity that really shocked me was basically on day 2 of diagnosis, when I sat with the doc and I said, "Doc, what happened?" And he could not answer me. And what was even more shocking was that the founder of the cure for the germ cell tumor I had also could not answer the question. So when you're 35 and you've built the number of companies, I mean, and you're curious, quote unquote, you start to say, wait a minute, so you're telling me you know how to deal with the symptom, you may know even how to cure me, but you don't understand the source of disease. So that's where the journey began, right? That why would a 35-year-old who is, in the craziness of things, who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, too chicken to try drugs, doesn't even drink coffee or tea, ends up with 10 tumors in his body at the age of 35. That was the first, I would say, alarm that went off to say, wait a minute, we need to go further, we need to go deeper, we need to really understand or try to understand what happened. So that's basically the beginning of the experience. And the first person I went to was Anissa, as you read in the book. And it was quite a brutal experience from my perspective. She claims she doesn't remember saying any of that, which is obviously very convenient. But yeah, she was the first one who brought about ego and said that I'm an arrogant human being and that I don't ask anything from God and that it's time to prostrate and beg for my life. And I ended up spending the next 9 months begging after every namaz to be alive for the next namaz, because I took a nap in between. And that was quite a shocking experience that she said it in the get-go. And that's how I spent the next 9 months. And so I really got to taste what surrender means in the sense of really accepting God's will and not resisting and not second guessing and not wishing otherwise, which in hindsight is very easy to say, but in reality is a nightmare beyond nightmares. But that's what we're supposedly taught in religion. And I think myself never understood it until I was brought to my knees and was at a point of either being there tomorrow or for the next namaz or not. So yes, a bit of a challenging experience.
And so you went through this and you survived. And I guess when you came out of it, what made you say, well, I should create something like Geneticare? Was it because you wanted to help other people who were going through similar things, or it was something else that you were trying to solve in the world? You know, you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to solve other people's problems. So what was the problem that you were trying to solve?
Well, look, let's be honest, right? Life happened. It wasn't me waking up one day with an idea. Life happened. And of course, we all have choice. And I made certain choices. So what happened was when I was in remission, they gave me 50-50. I was scared because 50-50 aren't the greatest odds after 20 rounds of chemo and 3 surgeries. So I started to exit most of the businesses. I still kept one because I was reminded, well, Eastern Europe and one in Africa, because I was reminded that even if you want to do good, you need cash flow. So obviously I needed a business to support the space. So what actually happened was friends, not family members, started to fall ill, and which is normal. I mean, we're a large Gujarati family, and I started to support the process. So I started to help getting access to the care, started spending time in clinics, started spending time in hospitals. And what was strange was that even though I was taking care of people who were at times terminally ill, all the way to burial and washing their body in burial. I mean, I'm a Muslim, so that's kind of the process. And it actually felt good in the most strangest way. So it was a real weird experience from that perspective. But also I was able to kind of bring my experience to it to kind of help them understand what could have contributed to the disease. And so over a span of 7 years, I started to realize that irrespective of education, irrespective of wealth, and irrespective of how long you had been in a particular country, most people didn't have a structure in place to protect, manage, and improve their health. And that's how the journey began, where I was like, wait a minute, this is really strange that we say that our health is our wealth and there's nothing more important, but we don't have a structure. We don't proactively go out of our way to do anything that is beyond the reactive mode or the annual screening, which I was having as well every end January. So it was the experience of being, in a large family and having the honor and privilege to care for loved ones, uncles, cousins, and also many, friends and staff of a lot of the people that I knew, because, everybody in the world, needs support. So that's how it kind of played about. It wasn't that I came out and I was like, wow, there's a gap. I need to solve the world's problems. Let's do this. So no, it wasn't the Silicon Valley, startup, story that you may want to hear.
Got it. So it came from wanting to care about people and help people and handle their suffering as you saw them going through it and people dying. And so I guess when I see the kind of people you have on, they're all doctors and they're all sort of professionals, but they don't talk about prescribing drugs or doing this chemo or doing that. So these are all people, and even the fact that you went to Anisa on day one, it's not like you went to some doctor in California and said, hey, give me some drugs and, give me some vitamins. You went for a very different type of treatment. So why that approach? Why wasn't it just about?
Okay, to clarify first also, please note that we don't undermine the medical side, okay? The medical side, which is part of our multi-dimensional approach, right, so there's the physical, there's the mental, emotional, and then there's the relational. And in the physical, the medical is the foundational piece. So it's not that we undermine it. If you ask me today, if I hadn't done the 20 rounds and the 3 surgeries, I can bet odds of 100 to 1, I wouldn't be here today. Okay, so to us, we look at it where we say, you need to do what you need to do to manage the symptoms, because it is late, right? You're now reacting. The situation has already happened. So we need to buy time. And with time, then we can resolve or get to the bottom of the source. So the 20 rounds and the 3 surgeries would happen over, 11 months, bought me the time to be able to do the work, right? So please know that, the medical side is paramount. We need to make sure the house is in order, right? We need to make sure that the boxes have been ticked, but not in the same manner that other people tick them, right? So for us, when you do an annual screening, it's not you just go to a center, say, I want to do an executive checkup, and you get that balance sheet and you're good to go. No, we're looking at all the different, like you do in a business, you look at the cash flow, you look at the management accounts, you look at, all the different parameters. So we're looking at all of them over the years and look for trends, right? So the medical side is fundamental, right? So maybe I walk you through the process if you want. So the first part is kind of, looking at what we call the health profile, looking at, where are you in terms of your genetics and genomics, right? Where are you in terms of your family medical history, your medical history? Do you have your medical records curated on and available on encrypted servers? Do you have a medical team that you're happy with and that is there to protect you, but more importantly, knows you, right? Because that's the other issue, because if they don't know you, how do they help you, right? Then, of course, we provide travel medical assistance. We look at medical insurance, and we're there, right? Proactively, reactively. So that's kind of the first, order in terms of the physical side. Then you have the drivers. Then we look at functional medicine, right? Where we look at the drivers of your behavior to look at the source. Then from there, we go to gut and brain health and sleep quality. From there, we go into the mental emotion. We're looking at thoughts and emotions. From there, we look at beliefs and patterns, where we're looking at, what you have either generationally or from birth collected in terms of limiting beliefs or patterns that are, kind of keeping you stuck or otherwise. Then we go to the story that's driving your life. Right now, we've gone into relationships with self and others. And then you're looking at alignment for my values, my talents, and my aspirations. So it's a real multidimensional approach where all the people that you've been, watching, whether it's Kathleen, whether it's Dr. D, whether it's Anissa, whether it's Danette, I won't go on with all the names, are kind of there to look at all the different parameters of the human being, right? To look at what are the key insights that we're finding when we go through this process? What are the growth opportunities, right? And then what are your aspirational outcomes that you'd like to achieve, right? And when we're doing this, each person's coming from a different space, right? So somebody can be coming in from a planning space where they want, harmony, they want generational continuity, they want to live a life of joy, they want to live a life where we all know love prevails, right? Love trumps all. Or they can be in a transition stage, right? Where I'm just getting married, I'm just becoming a parent, I'm now an empty nester, right? I'm now going from active management to advisory, succession. Or it could be somebody going through a chronic or acute state where I have a life-altering or a life-threatening disease like myself, or I have having, a challenging time with my spouse or my children, right? Or sibling rivalry, or, multi-generational issues in terms of conflict. So depending on where you are, we then create, a bespoke plan for you in that space. So it's not just that side that you're referring to. It's really the whole picture, right? Because, life is not that straightforward in all areas, right? Even in banking and family office work that you do, right? You can't just, it's not cookie cutter, right? As you know.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we're used to seeing that, in finance, we're used to seeing the headlines on newspapers, and in your world, we're used to seeing sort of, a few talks here and there, but there's much more a holistic approach. So let's, I guess, dive deeper into that. What does the word multidimensional mean? And that's kind of what we named this talk, right? Multidimensional approach to health. So what is multidimensional? And you kind of went through some of those, and why is it important? Like, why isn't it about just popping pills and seeing the best doctor and moving on? Why are there so many dimensions to this?
Well, look, the thing is that, we, as we know, maybe we need to go back and say, what are we trying to get to, right? The medicine man in the old days was paid based upon how many people remained well. So if people got sick, he or she got penalized. And that's kind of the model we should be moving towards, right? Today, as you know, we're in sickness management, right? We're in symptom management. We're in a reactive mode. So the idea here is that how do we move from reactiveness to proactiveness, right? How do we move from sickness management to really get to source and to get to the underlying issue, right? And so that we don't get sick, right? So it's like, I'll give you an example, right? So somebody who has an issue with sleep. So it's not about just providing melatonin, right? Which is still natural. It's about understanding how is the melatonin not being produced. So what is the enzyme that is not able to provide that melatonin? Now, what is the fertilizer, the soil that is not allowing that enzyme to be produced? So Michel Gollet, for example, would be looking at that in a multidimensional perspective, right? And saying, okay, let's go deep to refertilize the soil so that the person has the enzymes, which can then provide the melatonin, which can then provide the sleep, and also look at the cortisol levels to be able to make sure that they're being crushed in time so that the melatonin is released, right? So it's not, and the idea is to not have that person dependent on externals for a long period of time, right? So that's one dimension, right, that I'm showing you, is that in every area, it's how can we leverage our own body, which is the most incredible, complex, perfect, dimension that exists, right? We have all the healing within. So how can we go back and hack our bodies to go back to that incredible space of consciousness and perfection that we were all born with, right? From the element of, forget even conception, from the element of having intention of conception, right? Until things change. So it's really in every layer going deeper and deeper, right? So, on the physical front, on the mental emotional front, on the relational front, to really help kind of, clear the way, right? So that you can, of course, life is going to be challenging, right? You are going to have, curveballs. But the question is, it's not just about resilience and agility and adaptability. It's being able to have the cup full, right? And what does that mean? Is it a single dimension cup or is it a multidimensional cup? And that's the idea, right? That how do we have that multidimensional cup where those cups are full so that when curveballs happen or new things happen, we have the ability to transcend the challenge and change, right? Without too much leakage, right? Like COVID, right? COVID is an example of something that we all never imagined. And now we're 15 months in, and we're still, I'm not saying we're not in the same boat, but now we're starting to see a lot of repercussions of that experience. Sorry, I don't know if I answered your question, but
you did. You did. And I think that's kind of what I felt listening to all your videos and reading your book. It's not about, you're not trying to give people crutches. You're trying to make their own inner beings better, stronger, resilient, more, you take advantage of all the multi-dimensionality of people's lives and bring all of that together. I think so much of our lives can become unidimensional just because things are hard or we focus on doing one thing. So I've learned a lot about bringing all of those multi-dimensions of our personality together. But, I guess what I'm a sucker for hacks, and you and I talk about like the rebounder last time we were talking, and we're talking about cold showers. So being an American and being a sucker for like tips and hacks, I mean, give me some ideas, right? You've been doing this for 10 years. You've had to fix a lot of things. You've seen a lot of therapists and speakers on your own presentations. What do you think are some things that all of us, we don't have any chronic problems. Life is good. We're in our 30s, 40s, 50s. Like, what do you recommend people should do? Obviously, if we all have enough money, we should sign up for genetic care. But those of us like me who are a little bit poorer, what are things that we should be doing to make our lives better?
Thank you for being so humble. We won't go into the economics of your state, but we'll leave that for another talk. So no, so going back to what I mean, look, I can only share what I do and what some of the families that we care for do, because I mean, there's no magic formula, no magic pill, as you can imagine. Personally, I choose to have raw food throughout the day except for dinner. Reason dinner is because, you know, I'm home and I have the food right off. It's cooked and served. So it's really a first element, I think, is about energy. So how do you sustain consistent energy throughout the day and not experience this? So I think the key is when you eat something and you ask yourself, how do I feel? And you monitor it for 2 to 3 hours, right? So when I'm having a veg blend for breakfast, right, I'm able to stay satiated and have energy consistently without feeling any lethargy or any up or down. And then I complement that with some almonds and walnuts in the mid-morning snack. And then I have a salad for lunch, which is not a basic salad. It has nuts in it, it has vegetables in it, but I'm not having protein. Now, some people may want to add protein to it because that's what they feel, right? And then I have either dark chocolate or berries as a snack in the late afternoon. And I'm having carbs at night, but that's, you know, once a day, long grain brown rice and things like that. So again, I'm having an avocado, full avocado per day, which is great for your brain, right? I'm giving myself either spinach or kale also in the morning, which is kale, as you know, is the highest return on ingestion if you look at input output, right? So you're kind of picking and choosing things that are, but again, it depends on how you feel. So if I wake up in the morning and I have this urge that I need, my body's asking for meat, I will switch the salad and have, you know, something else for lunch. So it's not that, you know, and then again, I'm doing this Monday to Friday. Saturday, Sunday, I do intermittent fasting because I don't want the body dependent on any way. Because tomorrow I could be like I go to Angola, I could be going to Pakistan, I could be going to a country, you know, even if it's, you know, or even a Western country where the veg blend is a challenge. So I don't want my body to be dependent on any specific way of eating or being to then be kind of in a low of sorts. So Saturday, Sunday, I eat cooked all day, but I skip breakfast. Right now, what are other things? I stretch every day. I meditate as a 2 bookends every morning when I begin my day, every night before I go to bed, right? Because how you begin your day determines your day, how you end your day determines your sleep, right? And I'm used to use a guided meditation that you know, that was provided by one of our experts. Now I just do it myself, right? And so, you know, then the rebounder that we talked about, you know, I'd rather spend 10 minutes on a rebounder than 30 minutes on a treadmill. So that's again kind of saving time on that space. And most of our families have them in their homes, in their offices, in their second and third homes. So these are some of the choices that we make, right? And of course, I train on a regular basis. I've just started a training. You know, I'm continuing tonight when I finish the webinar at 8:30, I'm doing a training with Dr. D on boundaries, right? So it's you know, things change, right? Every, I would say 4 to 6 months, I do a different kind of training. Now, this is me. That doesn't mean that it applies to others, right? You could just read a book or go for a walk or spend time in nature, right? And things like that. And then I play sports every day. So either I swim, I play tennis, or I trek. So that's kind of, you know, what I do, but that doesn't mean that, you know, everybody should go out now and start doing something similar.
Got it. Now, you said 2 things that I just wanted to check the meaning of. You said veg blend. What does that mean?
Well, it's actually, I mean, I have a full avocado, cucumber, spinach or kale, rock salt. I mean, I can ask with the video to send the recipe if you like to everyone, and then some basil, and it's just blended, but the fiber remains, and it's kind of like a thick milkshake. And I have about 750 ml as my morning drink. So that's the veg blend.
Got it. And then some people are, you know, and I know you're not a doctor, so I hate even kind of putting you on the spot, but I know a bunch of people who are big fans of supplements and everything from zinc to vitamin D to folic acid and all sorts of magnesium. So you've done a lot of research on this and you have a lot of people you work with in this space. Where do you come out on that?
Well, look, we're not there advocating lots and lots of supplements, but we're also not on the other end saying it's a no-go. So it's kind of really looking at each human body. Like myself, I kind of didn't accept the fact that I needed to have vitamin D plus K3 vitamins, right? K2, sorry. And I met an expert that we work with who's a German internist, and we had a chat, and he convinced me that, look, it's about time, because it's impacting your body at a cellular level, and that's not good. So, so but yes, in most cases with our families, we cut down a very large number of the supplements because it's my friends taking it. I heard about it. There's a lot of reactivity. So if you say to me that you're sitting down with an internist or let's say a gut and brain specialist or somebody who's really looking at you overall and then picking and choosing the gaps and how to, we say, optimize or take the game to the next level, we're all for it. But if it's just because my uncle said it and my cousin said it and my friend said it and I read it on I watched it on a YouTube, I would be a little bit more, I would say, I would ask a few more questions than just jump on it.
Got it. And so we talked about diet, and I think, when you think about some of these other things, by that I mean some of the training that you were mentioning, what are some of the changes that you think, well, let's go back to more, one of the ideas we said we discuss is transcending life's challenges. And we all have different types of challenges, and hopefully none of us have to go through chemo in the way you did and cancer and tumors, but we all have emotional issues and work issues and family issues that we go through. What are some things that you've sort of learned there, things you recommend in transcending life challenges? Obviously people talk about meditation, but how do you sort of think about that? And I know Anissa sort of talked about some of this. Jonathan Cave has those 3x3, thinking about your values. What's your view there?
No, look, I mean, I can share some of my own, right? I mean, dealing with, trying to create harmony post a divorce is something that, was a challenge, right? Where you walk through and work through the blame, the shame, the unspoken, the things that were not discussed, right? The undisclosed. So really coming in and having that space to have that authentic conversation, to have that truthful conversation where, which led us to where you are right now, right? Which is obviously a relationship that broke down. So I think that, I think we need to find a way to have those safe conversations when the relationships are healthy. We shouldn't wait till they start to crumble or are challenged, right? Then we look at even my own children, right? That am I showing up where I meet them where they are? Something that I spoke when we were, having the chat with Barbara, right? She I remember years ago said to me, take your car, at that time she referred to a Ferrari, leave it at the door, because the kids were very small, and said, walk in with your tricycle, right? I mean, today, I'll give you a real story. Today, a few hours ago, I had, we just did a soft launch yesterday of our European operation based in Switzerland for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, right? So this is genetic care expanding based on the needs, right? There's, as you know, COVID has created a lot of opportunities, but a lot of challenges, right? So in response to that, we've partnered with an incredible team. And today we were having a chat, and I was in Switzerland in December, and we met 17 different family offices, and they gave me feedback today on the responses they got. And I can tell you it was unbelievably two ends, where one was like, wow, you crushed it, we love you, it was amazing, to the other where, wow, you just ran us over. Okay, so the training I'm doing, that I'm continuing to do, that I'm continuing tonight, is to really learn to meet people where they are, right? And I'm doing this webinar less than an hour after having feedback that was beyond brutal. And my partners, who I can see are not on the call right now, well, one of them is, knows exactly what happened, right? And it was, I mean, Michelin blimp is very politely put in terms of what I heard for an hour, right? So I'm saying those are kind of the conversations and the work in progress that we continue to have. Yesterday was also my older son's birthday, right? And again, making, he's in Pakistan, and connecting with him and celebrating from a distance, and asking him, what does he need at this moment in time to be supported, to be loved, to be reminded that he is the most important thing along with his brother in my life at this moment in time, right? So what can I do to be of service to you? And being able to language it in a way that truly connects, where he truly feels it, and it's not just lip service, that he can feel, right? So on one hand, you have this training where I can get battered and beaten and I'm still standing. And some people may think of it as, this guy can't feel anything, when actually I feel everything. But it's just that I'm not getting rattled. So I had to learn to say, I'm here, I hear you, I'm trying to feel you, right? How can I help you? How can I love you, right? Because in their mind, they're thinking, wow, he's not even flinching. He must not be human, or he must not care. He's a machine, right? So it's really, and this I'm giving you, this is hot off the press, right? This is the last 48 hours that I'm telling you of what's kind of transpiring, right? So many of us are going through different conversations, right? I can see people are on the call who are challenged by their children, like all of us are, in terms of some of the choices they're making, or the choices they've made, or and the question is, I mean, one of the people on the call right now is sent a message 2 days ago about the inner voice, and that our role should be to help our children to be able to express that inner voice, right? And the process that we're doing, that we talk about in the Chi-8, is really to help you go back to that level of consciousness, that level of absolute knowing, which is that inner voice, which is the God within. Sorry for those who may not use that word, can be the universe, whatever that word is, to fully express itself, right? And be one with the oneness of the wholeness of life, which is humanity and beyond, right? Sorry, I'm getting a little philosophical.
No, it's important. It's important because this is the stuff that people don't talk about. We talk about techniques and tactics, but we don't talk about, like, what's the big picture that we're solving for here? What is the state that we're trying to achieve? So when people meditate, they're like, I don't know what I'm looking for. And then people stop just because they don't understand it. So tell me more about...
That's what it is. Don't, understand that it's automatic. It knows what it's doing. The conscious and subconscious has a plan that we'll never understand, and just trust the process. So when somebody comes to you and says that, ask them to trust the process. Trust the perfection of life. Trust that life is happening for me, not to me, right? And that's one of the things I think is the most challenging, is, when we talk about, the 4 steps that I write about, I write the second step being trust, but actually maybe it should be the first step, because without trusting, I will not be able to embrace what is. So maybe on this call, we need to flip the steps, because if I don't trust life, if I don't trust the universe or that it's happening for me, I will not be able to embrace what is. It's just not possible. Ahmed, you're frozen. Are you still there? Okay, I guess. Well, he's back.
Those days, my friend. This is why we got to keep laughing and smiling through the funny things that happen. And I think what you said is and our relationship has grown over time, because some of the things you've told me is, just chill, trust the process, be less intense around your children, just kind of give them time. I think given the jobs that we have, we can be whirlwind and trying to systematize and automate and optimize, and they kind of puts up walls around our kids, and so they don't get in. And you gave me this advice last year, August, September, which helped me sort of why you rushing it? Why are you pushing it? Just trust it. And that's
But I'm not doing such a good job. My own two boys freeze many a times when I show up. They feel my energy. My energy is very intense. There's a air of knowing that I think that they feel comes out of me, and so I'm still a work in progress. I'm still trying to meet them where they are, and hopefully one day they'll watch this, or somebody will tell them that I love them dearly and I'm doing my best, and that's all I can do, right? I can't do more than that, and then I have to let go, let God, and and that's what life is about, I guess.
That's right. And so, in terms of what life is about, tell me about the journey building Genetic Care. This is not your first venture. It won't be your last. Sort of, what have you learned building it? Regrets, lessons learned along the way, that apply to not just like, hey, I should have done it differently, to actually, these are things that I've learned that I wish if I had to write the book again, this is what I would put in the book, and sort of life lessons since.
Well, maybe we talk about the book. So first, I had a hard time going from we to me and to I. And I think that the feedback I've gotten, especially from women, and some of them are on the call right now, and I'm sure they're smiling, was that they felt that 50% of the book was great and fantastic, and they really connected and felt really that it was an absolute honor and privilege to be part of that process. And 50% was a knowing from an ego perspective that just felt like they were chewing on glass. So I think the next book, inshallah, which is very soon, I was going to write it actually now as I'm in quarantine, but decided to focus on the launch of EMEA, based out of Switzerland, will be to really do a cross-check on that ego doesn't come through at the level that it has, and to be able to really not come from a space of knowing, but from a space of, where you're always a student, you're always a work in progress, and I'm just another human being that's sharing their journey and some of the ideas that may make sense and apply to your life if, you feel they're appropriate. So kind of really toning down that, on one hand, it's really a tough balance, I'll tell you honestly. Like, we're Gujaratis, born in a way where you're 6 foot under and all you have to do is roll over when you drop dead, right? And then asked to be a thought leader, right? It's such a confusing transition. And I guess, for those who read it and felt there was too much ego, I obviously went a little out of control, right? So I think the lesson on the first, is that. Then regarding the Genetic Care itself, look, I knew I was 5 years ahead. It was just a reality. I did not want to wait, whether that was my ego or whether I wanted to have the data and build up the infrastructure so we would be ready like we are now. It's game time, let's be honest. So maybe, I would have started a little smaller. I wouldn't have burned as much money as I did. So I would have really started nimble and humble. But because I had already been successful in so many other businesses, I guess I didn't respect money the way I should have as a startup. So I think that I would have chosen differently. I think I made assumptions that many people, because they're logical, would also be logical in this space. And clearly, logic does not apply. It's a space where many don't want to go. They don't want to have the conversation. They don't know how to have the conversation. And even if you create the safe space, it's really a challenging space. So I think, again, I was overconfident, right? Again, that it would be a no-brainer, and that, and again, I focused on the product rather than the connection and the connection to the people. So thinking that, and that's what happened in all the other businesses, our core competitive advantage was the product. And then the distribution and the logistics and all of that was, the marketing was a follow through with it. And here I fell in love with the product, which is obviously my own, which is very dangerous, and didn't focus on the distribution and the market segments, and really, again, meet the client where they are. I was, out in left field because I could see the need, but we had to start with the want. So I went straight to what people need instead of saying, you know what, let's start with what they want and build slowly and slowly and slowly. So those are some of the learnings, I would say. Of course, there's a lot more, but
yeah,
I don't
a
want to.
lesson on being humble.
Yes.
I guess that's a lesson of Faisal.
Yes. 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 Even though,
so
even after stage 3 cancer and divorce, still haven't learned. I'm still learning, Ahmed. Still learning. Huh?
It's a lot of ego to get over.
Yes, that's right.
So I guess, in closing, last 5-10 minutes, we've sort of talked about, diet. We've talked about some habits, some training, meditation. As people start thinking about their wellness and their health and want to be more multidimensional about it, are there any tests or things that you think, you should start thinking about this? You talked about having your health records in an encrypted format. Like, what are some things that people should be doing with their lives to get their affairs better for the future?
Okay, I would, medical teams, I think I would be very mindful as to who's on your team and how they came about to be on your team, not just they were referred by ABC, because remember, your GP or your internist is the quarterback. So if anything were to happen, the people they're surrounded by will be your core team. So if they're amazing, you're in very good hands. But if they're not, I would rethink that process, right? Again, going in for checkups, I would look at it and really chart out like we do companies in terms of looking for trends and space. So to look at, just because I'm within the norm doesn't mean it's okay. It's, do I see a change happening, upward, downward, whatever the mobility is, because that's what should be spotted, right? And then, look, I know a lot of people are looking at fitness and nutrition. Please focus on sleep, rest and recovery. If you ask me, of the three, rest and recovery is number one, right? Because without rest and recovery, the nutrition and the fitness is compromised. It's very important. So whether you do a review of it like we do, everybody wears a Garmin watch. I'm in quarantine, so mine's on my best side, okay? And then we do a 36-hour test where you wear, the band, you sleep 2 nights and a day, you kind of journal out what you're doing and you do that review. So sleep, please bring sleep into that space. And then, the epigenetics and the genomics is amazing. So at least you know what your nature is versus your nurture. And I would say always ask whether you're doing something, whether it's journaling, whether you're eating something, whether you're exercising, or, ask yourself, how do I feel? Right? And really get in tune to learn to listen to your body. Why did I end up sick? Because I ignored my body. I didn't listen to my body, right? I basically told my body, I'm busy. I don't have time for you. Talk later. And then body eventually said, okay, I will show you who's boss, right? So let's learn to be in sync and in touch with our bodies so that we can truly stay connected. So
I think that's fair. I think, and you said this before also, is you should always be wondering when you're eating something, how is this making me feel? When you're doing something, how is this making me feel? So really be driven from the insides. A lot of us don't listen to our bodies.
But even when you're connecting with your children, right? It's about, how are you feeling, right? How can I support you, right? To help you move through what you're moving through at this moment in time, right? It's really go from that space. Now, how are you doing and all of that? Of course, you can ask that as well. I'm not, but even whether they get their results back or right now, my younger son is doing day 2 of his mock IB exams, right? So I asked him, so how did it feel? And then he answers, right? Say, good luck today. And, hope today feels different, right? Whatever that looks like when he comes out of it later today, right? Yeah. So yeah, I think we should push people for questions. I guess either we're taking them on a dimension that's, but go ahead, Ahmed. What I know there's you will never stop. So go ahead. Tell me what's showing.
I had another question that I wanted to double click on, which is, and this is again just me being selfish. I did the 23andMe. What else do you guys recommend for? I agree that the function of genes is super important. And for example, in my family, you have heart disease and diabetes is been quite common in our family, as it is for some Asians from where we come from. Um, what are other tests that you recommend, or things that you think are better than 23andMe and on the epigenetic side?
Look, I mean, you have a lot of different brands, but I think I would look at, companies that are able to look at the nutrition, look at fitness, look at supplements, and look at sleep. Some people are doing testing on drug efficacy. I think that's very important for those who are on medication and just want to know generally, if tomorrow something happens, what is their absorption level of the various drugs. I've done a lot of other testing, which I don't think a lot of people are in the space of looking at. I've done all my cancer my cancer screening to see whether I have any genetic predisposition to any cancer, and mine was clean, which obviously clearly points to that I created my own cancer. But also I've looked at other diseases, but not everyone, I think, is in position to truly go into that space, because you don't want to also manifest it, right? But I think the sleep one, Ahmed, I think that's something that I would really, really look into, to look at, am I really getting my rest and recovery, right? I think that is something that I would urge people to consider. And I'm not talking about the sleep apnea, right? I'm talking about just a normal sleep test where, you just find out, where are you in terms of cortisol, melatonin, and are you beginning? I mean, we've had people who are starting to release melatonin at 2 a.m, 3 a.m. They're very, very successful CEOs, crushing it. They're some of the best in the world, but it's not sustainable. So it's like we're helping them rebalance so that the cortisol, at least by 10 p.m. is game over, and they start to release melatonin. So these are kind of some of the tweakings that we're up to.
I agree with that. I mean, I read that book, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, which I'm sure a lot of people have read. And that was like a life-changing book, because once I changed sleep, it changed my entire life, made me a much happier person, made me feel healthier, be happier, be better with the kids. And you're like, wow.
Yeah, it's like as if you were, your level of presence and engagement was compromised because of the quality of your sleep, right? It's like you're finally awake, right? You were like wondering, was I sleepwalking before this? Right?
The whole time, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you weren't. Yeah, you weren't, but at the end of the day, it felt like it versus how you feel, because the quality of sleep has completely improved. So it's why are we talking about all these pieces, right? So it's my nutrition, my fitness, right? My sleep, my gut health, my brain health, right? So you're looking at my presence and engagement, which means my thoughts, my emotions, my story, my beliefs from childhood, right? You understand? So it's am I living in alignment? So when you add up all these pieces, it just gets tweaked better and better and better and better. And it just makes, that part of your brain that has the highest, output is joy, right? It's how do I create that joyful experience with my loved ones to take the game to the next level? And when I mean game, I don't mean from a business perspective, right? It's really about love trumps all, right? So how do I make it yummier every day, right? I mean, a basic thing between families, like between couples, or even, is the 5 love languages, right? I don't know if you ever, I'm sure you've read the book and done it, but let me ask you a question, Ahmed. So you've done the 5 love languages, and I assume you know yours and you know your wife's, right? So do you every day make it a point to meditate and to intentionally to fill the cup of your spouse of the 2 languages that drive and mean love to her?
No.
So that's something that you and I may want to consider after this call, and maybe everybody else that is watching or plans to watch later, right? That the thing is, we have awareness, right, in a lot of areas of life. And then I always ask, and then what?
That's right. That's right.
And that's the question. So we've read all these books. I see loads of books behind you, right? And one of them happens to be mine, which is now on the desk. But the question is, and then what? Right? And look, I used to read 1 or 2 books a week. And the question always at the end was, wait a minute, you read these 2 books, and then what?
That's right. That's right. And I think most of us don't answer that question. And I think, we talk about ideas of meditation and mindfulness, but to actually say, okay, I'm spending, days planning my next holiday or what car I'm going to buy, but how much time am I actually spending on how is my body healthier? How is my relationships healthier? How is my family healthier? We don't really do that. And I don't know why we ignore, we do all sorts of spending in other parts of our life, but actually on the core of it, we don't spend the time and attention and money.
So that's the thing, right? We say family business, family office.
Mm-hmm.
Is it family coming first or the business or the office?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you head up the whole family office space for the company you work for. I don't want to say names because I don't want you to get in whatever, but the reality is family truly coming first? You tell me, for the family offices you serve. Right. So let's forget the offices. Let's talk about ourselves. Right.
Yeah.
We have a family plan. Maybe we up the game and call it a love plan. Right. Never said that. I mean, maybe that's what we need to do. How do we create a joy plan? Right? How do we create a plan that creates joy?
That's right.
Right? I mean, I'm doing a training, and one of the exercises that Dr. D asked me is to sit down and write down how to take romance to the next level. Literally, like what will you do, irrespective of, do not write the name of the partner or the one you would love to spend the rest of your life with. But in general, how can you take love to the next level from a partnership perspective? Right? And how can you create happiness within so that it's not about, dependency on the other person, but bringing in that joy and happiness so that whoever comes in is coming in already into this incredible space of juice that they just have to bathe in, right? And then they bring their love and generosity and kindness into it. And then it's like, wow, right? I mean, what else could you ask for? So this is kind of, I'm sharing some of the training, but I hope Dee is okay with it. But I'm just saying that let's make a love plan. Let's make a family plan. Let's make, I know we have the health plan and maybe some of us do, but what about the other side, right? So now you have homework, Ahmed, the 5 languages of which 2 are driving are the key core to your wife. So I will now every week WhatsApp you and ask you how many days out of 7 you've actually intentionally filled the cup so that her cup stays full or overflows.
Let's do that.
Should we ask everybody on the call to do that, or is that imposing?
Yeah, we should give everybody a homework that that they can take away. Now, what would that homework be? I guess one homework would be solve your sleep. If you think you have a sleep issue, solve your sleep issue. Right?
Begin to address it. And if you need help, and even if you're not part of the system, reach out. We will help you. Yeah. We will guide you. Right? We're not here to, that you have to be part of it. Go ahead. That's 1. So sleep, right?
What else? What else do you think would be a?
Well, with the love languages, I think would be very important, right? And it doesn't have to be those who have partners. Maybe it's a family member, right? If they don't have a loved one, it doesn't matter, right? But even let's say for yourself, right? How, making sure that your cup is full, right? Yeah. That could be something to look at. Now, what about nutrition and fitness? You want to, in that space, or in the meditation space, or just, being in a space of silence, or how about them trying, meeting people where they are, which is something that I'm, like I said, still a work in progress. What does that even mean? Right? Yeah. How do we show up in that space?
Yeah, right. I think that those are probably the right types of homework. Then we got sleeping, meeting people where they are, and then figuring out the right languages and what other people need from you.
Okay, we've got somebody saying, what about gratitude? How about starting with the basics of three elements? We always say end your day or start your day with 3 things you're grateful for, right? And and that kind of automatically is the beginning point of the shift into that space of not only gratefulness but of joy, right? It's we need to begin somewhere. And definitely gratitude is a very basic. I mean, I journal every day, so I guess, sometimes I forget the fundamentals and basics. So thank you very much. And then saying, We don't have to wait for a crisis to address the well-being of yourself and those around you, making time to care upfront. So again, the whole concept of care, I think define and align with your loved ones of what care means and how they would like that to be expressed, right? So I could show up caring by taking actions, by being very mindful, by being attentive to detail. But that may not be not only the love language, but that might be their definition of care.
Yeah.
Right. Like I said, I wasn't rattled. So my own loved one think that I don't care. Okay. So how does care look like for you? How does I love you, translate for you? And without even doing the 5 language, like I think communication and learning to relate, at least from my perspective, is something that, it continues to be a challenge, right? So if you asked your child, what would that be, Ahmed, for you? How are your 2 kids know? How do they know in their core that whatever you call you, Baba, Papa, is really there?
Probably when we go out for a walk, I'm not distracted and not looking at my phone or present more often and not kind of like half distracted.
Okay, so that's when they know they have your attention, and if they don't, they start to be mischievous, right? Because then they're basically telling you focus.
Yeah, they know that if they're naughty, then a good way to get my focus is to do that. And we've tried to set up a rule that when we go out together, I will not look at my phone, and they can find me if I do. So we're trying to get around it. But
what about dinner? I hope at dinner time there are no phones. Now that's another thing. I won't mention. There's some people on the call that continue to have dinner with their phones. But is that a rule in your house? No phones at dinner?
Yeah, no phones at breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Okay.
That part is good.
Okay.
But I think these things are important. And maybe when we send out the video, we can kind of have some notes alongside it, kind of summarizing some of this, because we've covered a lot. But I'm cognizant that we're coming at the end of the hour, and I'm sure people have are scheduled back to back. One of the beauties of Zoom is we can just go from one stimulation to another.
Okay.
So let our audience have time to go on to their next call or get ready for lunch. I guess it's 12 o'clock in London. It's 1 o'clock in Switzerland. So we'll let people move on.
So let me
this
flip
has been
it back.
awesome.
No, but you tell me, what are the key takeaways for you from this wonderful conversation that we both had the honor and privilege to experience?
I mean, I think, look, between from the time that I've met you till today and all the things that you've created and I've experienced, I think the key things that I've learned are slow down, be humble, think about what other people want rather than what you want. And then I think some of the things that I've learned from Jonathan Cave and Anissa and Dr. D and that book, Letting Go, I think have all been helpful in really seeing the multi-dimensionality of it. When I came to it, I was like, supplements, cold shower, exercise, meditation, yoga, okay, we're good. But I hadn't really thought about the brain side of it. Okay, maybe meditation, but not really all the other parts of the brain and how food interacted. And humans have very complex system. Like we are the most complex system ever. And we're amazing, but like you got to use it properly and really understand it and spend the time and be humble that you don't understand it and be curious that you want to figure it out a little bit more every day, every week. And it's just amazing to figure out how amazing this body is that we live in.
Yes.
What an
opportunity. It also has the healing capacities within. That's another thing that I think we need to really trust and know, right? That that we have it within us if we choose to, in your words, hack it.
Hack it. So on that note, my friend, always a pleasure. Enjoy your dinner, and we'll talk on WhatsApp probably in an hour or two as we do.
Sounds good. Cool. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you very much for flipping it, coup d'etat, reverse acquisition in your part of the world. We have Jonathan Cave coming in next week. That's going to talk about Chief Empowerment Officer and what that means. And then we'll have Senthil back from Arbinger to discuss the outward mindset, to really kind of bring it in to that space. And we're probably going to end up announcing an online course that we can do alongside with Senthil that would be really, really, really incredible. And after that, we have Kathleen coming back, talking about what is it going to feel like when we come out of this, this experience of the last 14, 15 months of COVID. Are we ready? What are the things that are going to be, going through our bodies and our systems as we experience that? All right. So thank you very much, everyone. See you next Wednesday. Thank you again, Ahmed. Thank you for being so curious and inquisitive and participating and not letting me be in what they call the hot seat on my own. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Bye.